Welcome to the Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, Josh Kimmel, Dave Campbell, and Justin Bowerly.
Welcome into Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. With me, Justin Bowerly, live from where you at? Wisconsin?
Chicago. Close
Live
to
from
Wisconsin.
Chicago. I don't know where these Midwest. Look at you. You have AirPods on. You don't have a mic in front of your face. What is going on with the setup today? Oh, there it is. There it is.
It's just hidden.
You know, I wish I could hide some things, like a couple of videos we made. But that's why we're here today. We're here to making some videos, some shorts, some starts and sits of the week. Follow us on our YouTube page at Fins Talk Sports Network, and of course, our page at OUSFF Pod. We are presented by the Fins Talk Sports Network. Bobby and the great team over there let us use this platform to get our message out there for you to win your fantasy leagues. We're usually live on Wednesday nights, but I'll be at a hockey game tonight, supporting the best team in the world, Tampa Bay Lightning. So sorry about that, guys. If you did not catch it this morning, I think I posted it. I think I did. But anyway, we have some great starts and sits of the week. Make sure you follow us again at Josh Kimmel OUS and at Justin Bowerly. Justin, I've been talking a lot. Did you get any waiver wire additions in your for your league matchups?
You know what? I'm only in one more matchup, and
Wow.
it's a deep league, so there was nobody I could go get, unfortunately. So I wasn't focusing on getting some week 17 filler for a dynasty league for next year because I'm gonna probably drop him anyway. So.
Well, after we logged off yesterday, we did talk about TJ Hawkinson, and he was ruled out for the season, torn ACL, MCL, probably going to miss. I dropped him because I had him in two fantasy matchups this week, and I dropped him, and one's a keeper league. And Dave, I'm going to grab him, keep him. When does a player ever come back from a torn ACL week 1 from week 16? Kyler did this last year. It took him about week 6, 7, 8 to get back. TJ Hawkinson, just want to touch on this news real quick. It's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for the team. He probably won't be back until about mid-season next year. And when he does come back, will he be at full strength? It's just unfortunate for the fantasy community. The number one tight end went down, so I guess Kelsey's going to finish tight end 1, and I will be right.
Well, Kelsey's 3 right now, right? So that doesn't necessarily mean it. And he's got 2 weeks or 1 week to really prove that. And we'll talk about that today.
Yeah, we'll talk about Kelsey a little bit later. But let's get right into it, man. Let's get into the quarterbacks. That's what we always start off with, the hot topic. There's a name on this list I did not want to bring up today, but I had to. We have Brock Purdy, who we recommended last week, and he laid an egg. And we have Baker Mayfield, who's making us semi-famous on the internet. So we have these two guys to talk about, and trust me, I did not bring up Baker for the clicks. We brought up Baker because it's an interesting matchup, and a lot's changed since our last video. So right into it, Purdy versus Washington, Baker versus New Orleans. Justin, I'll let you go first. I want you to start this off because I don't want to be the guy to make a decision right away. I look like Baker. Like, I didn't shave. I look like a bum. Like, I just look like
I was pulling up these photos today, and I was like, man, Baker literally looks like a middle-aged dad. Like, he doesn't look like an NFL quarterback. It's fine. We're not talking about Baker like that. Okay, so the matchup is pretty close. I mean, Baker's not projected as many yards, but Purdy is second? Well, before this last week was second in the league in passing yards with the least amount of passing attempts. This is a pretty close matchup, even though there's a 5-point differential here. The biggest things here is Washington allows the most points against the quarterback, which is who Brock Purdy is going up against, whereas Baker goes up against the 7th toughest defense with the New Orleans Saints against the quarterback. So that's going to be tough. New Orleans allows about 15 points a game, whereas Washington allows 21. I think after the dud that Brock Purdy put up last week, the 49ers are going to have to get off to a hot start. I feel like this is Purdy's time to shine, but man, is Baker really killing it the last couple of weeks? That's the real predicament, and that's why we're talking about these two. But if I'm going with my gut right now, I'm hoping Brock Purdy plays well for 1 week, just 1 week. Give me a championship. I rode you all season here. Give me that championship. I actually have this in a real life matchup.
So to piggyback on your Purdy analysis, we broke him down last week, and nothing's changed except for he had a one dud. And if you're going to go off that one dud and say, you know what, I'm changing quarterbacks, I'm changing directions, then you don't really know how to play. You don't know how the game works, honestly. You can't just say, hey, he had one bad game, time to throw it in. He's going against Washington, the perfect matchup. Like you said, they allow 21 points per game to the quarterback position, tied with Philly, actually. So they are tied with the worst passing defense against fantasy quarterbacks. Purdy threw 4 picks last week, man, against Baltimore, one of the best passing defenses in the league. Guys, elite talent can't always beat the defenses. Sometimes the defenses are elite themselves, so therefore sometimes the defenses win. I get it. It's not going to happen week in, week out. We recommend a Purdy. He laid an egg. It just happens. Commanders only have 7 interceptions on the year total. Purdy threw 4 last week against Baltimore. Baltimore actually picked off Sam Darnold too, so they had 5 picks in that game, almost catching the Commanders' season total in one game. That's not going to happen again. Commanders don't really commit turnovers. They don't really play hard defense, and they've kind of quit. And they have also allowed the most touchdowns given up to quarterbacks, 33 this year, the most in the NFL. Purdy is where I'm leaning to, but I do want to get into Baker real quick before we do move on. Since the 8th of December, when our video posted, Baker Mayfield has been quarterback 2. Baker Mayfield, I'll repeat that. Since we made our Dynasty podcast about Baker Mayfield, he's been quarterback 2. Before that, he was quarterback 16. Weeks 1 through 13, he was quarterback 16. Weeks 14 through now, quarterback 2. I can't make it up. I just cannot make this up. It's unreal.
Play the clip.
But he's been, you know what?
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
So was I, Baker. So was I, because I was going to talk about you today. I will say this. In those 3 weeks where he's been balling out, he played Atlanta, Green Bay, Jacksonville. Atlanta's 19th against the pass. Green Bay 17th, which we covered Green Bay yesterday in the priority waiver show. They're actually dead last against the pass the following past 2 weeks. That defense has fallen apart. So the 17th is kind of inflated considering their most recent history. And then Jacksonville's 29th against the pass. What am I saying? Baker has played cake matchups the past 3 weeks. Baker has taken advantage of these cake matchups like he should. Congratulations. We have Groot or we have Rocket going nuts in the background. That's okay. But what I'm saying, I'm not saying Baker is a bum right now. What I'm saying is he played 3 cake matchups. Now he's going against New Orleans. New Orleans, he torched them, 23.9 points in week 4. He threw 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. We've seen it. We've seen Baker ball against New Orleans. Now Baker's quarterback 11 right now overall. In a year where we have no Burrow, we have no Anthony Richardson, we have no Aaron Rodgers, we have no Deshaun Watson, we have no Jimmy Garoppolo, we have no Daniel Jones, we have half a season from Kyler, half a season from Justin Herbert, and about a third of a season from Kirk Cousins. Okay, I will say this: I'm glad Baker made it this far at quarterback 11. I'm actually happy for him. But if we're talking points per game, if we're talking how players have played, Joe Flacco is averaging 21.3 points since he's been in the league. Are we crowning him? Are we saying he's going to go forward and be the next great quarterback? Or am I going to get a bunch of Cleveland fans coming after me because I'm saying Joe Flacco is not the future of their team? No. Losing Cousins means 19.3 points per game. That's what he was averaging before he left. Herbert, 18.5. Richardson, in the small sample size, 18.5. Kyler Murray, since he's been back, 18.2, all ahead of Baker Mayfield's points per game. That being said, congratulations for being quarterback 11. You should be probably around 18, 19-ish. Saints, I did a lot of research today, guys. I'm sorry. The Saints run zone defense never. Why do I bring this up? Baker is 32% or 32nd against the zone defense completion percentage. Worst. 31st passing rate versus zone. Again, second worst. He should torch the Saints because against the man-to-man defenses, he's 6th and 18th against in passing completions and passing rating. He torches man defense. Why? Why does he torch man defenses, you ask me? I don't know. There's a guy named Mike Evans there. There's a guy that's Mike Evans where he crushes man-to-man. 8th against man-to-man, actually. 45.3% win rate versus man. 26.7% of his targets come versus man defense. He's third in air yards, third in deep targets. When he's one-on-one, Baker has no problem throwing it deep to him and getting him the ball. And that's where Baker balls. That's where Baker's making his money. 32% of Baker's yardage have come from Mike Evans. 50% of Baker's touchdowns are to Mike Evans. Mike Evans is making Baker Mayfield money. Baker Mayfield may get a starting job after this because of what he's doing in the clutch. Even though he's playing secondary, bottom of the barrel teams right now, he's doing enough to get a job. And that's a tough pill for me to swallow and a tough pill for me to go back on my word because things change. You can have an opinion on a player now and it can change even in 4 weeks. And Baker's doing enough to get a job somewhere else. So congratulations, Baker. That being said, I'm still starting Brock Purdy. I mean, Brock Purdy's a top 5 quarterback. I mean, come on. And the proof is there. If we had a full season of Burrow, Richardson, Rodgers, Watson, Jimmy G, Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones gets the rushing yards, Kyler, Herbert, Cousins, where would Baker actually be? And that's where the fanatics can't comprehend and can't grasp and going around their head. And I get it because I do the same thing. We all use numbers to prove a point or to disprove a point. And I'm using these numbers to disprove a point that Baker shouldn't be quarterback 11, but he is. And that's just what it is, and you have to accept it. So still taking Purdy. I think everyone would at this point, right? Like Purdy, you can't just one bad game.
It's such a tough matchup because like you talked about early, is that Baker Mayfield is QB2 over the last couple of weeks, whereas Brock Purdy had a tough game. So that does make it tough. But yeah, I hate to say it, but like I'm gonna have to go Brock Purdy here. I mean, it's just
when you make this short, do not put Baker on the cover. I do not want to hear it. I'm over you guys. I apologize to the Baker fan base. I apologize to Bucks Nation.
But I have to. It's this or that. It's a start or sit. I can't just put start or sit Brock Purdy.
Any more mean comments? I don't. But they're welcome. They're welcome, and thank you guys. We have a question in the chat from Josh Wingate. He wants to know Gus Edwards, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kamara, and the flex. We're going to talk Kamara. We could talk him now. You know what? Let's answer this question, then transition into the running back debate.
Okay.
So, do we need just one, Josh?
I'm gonna assume just in the flex means just one. And by the way, did you notice that's on Twitter? You can actually comment on Twitter now. It's a new feature.
Since when?
Literally this week. I'm pretty sure it's new this week. As far as here, I don't want to give all of my notes up for Kamara because we need to talk about it in the segment itself. But if I'm going with a running back here without looking at schedules, I'm going to go with Gibbs.
I'm going to go Jahmyr Gibbs as well. When I was doing some research on Kamara and Bijan Robinson, who we're going to talk about next, I saw Gibbs up there ahead of both of them. Most recently, actually, Gibbs is electric. Gibbs is on fire. I would take him 1,000% over Kamara and Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards should not be on your roster at this point if you roster Gibbs and Kamara. Right? Like, crazy. I mean, it is championship week, so it doesn't matter. But Gus Edwards should not be in the conversation, period. Like, that's a joke, Josh, right? I'm sorry you're my listener. I know I'm not calling my listeners stupid, but I love Josh. And we do host a show Monday. I can talk to Josh this way. We host a show Monday nights.
It's just like talking to Dave. I mean, it's like calling him stupid. So
Gus Edwards should never be in the conversation with Gibbs and Kamara. All right, moving on. Bijan Robinson at Chicago, running back 12, and Alvin Kamara at Tampa Bay, both on the road. Again, I'm going to let you start it off first because I'm curious on this one because I think we're going to be opposite.
You think we're going to be opposite?
I do.
It's interesting. Okay. Well, so I did my homework today, which is not often. Usually I just make graphics, but today I did homework. Bijan Robinson is going up against the Chicago Bears, whereas Alvin Kamara is going against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or should I say the Tampa Bay Baker Mayfields. Robinson, another matchup here. They are very similar, just the projected points are not the same. There's some points here and there. The key matchup here, Bijan is going against a defense with Chicago that is giving up the 12th most points to fantasy running backs. They're averaging about 20.7 points per game against the running back position, whereas Kamara is going up against the 4th best defense to running backs, giving only 15.5 points per game. Here's the hard part. Arthur Smith just doesn't like to use his best players sometimes. So we could see 15 points from Bijan. We could see 2 points from Bijan in the most pivotal matchup of your fantasy season. That really does make this hard, and it sucks that you keep making me go first. But if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna have to say Bijan against Chicago. Been riding him all season. I'm gonna go Bijan against Chicago just because of the points per game that Chicago's been giving up. Chicago's not technically out of it, but neither are the Falcons. They're coming off of a big win. They need another win to continue trying to get to that divisional win against the Buccaneers. Same with the Saints. I mean, they're going against the Buccaneers, but I'm going to go Bijan in this matchup. It's very close. I almost want to go Kamara, but I'm going to go Bijan.
This one's close, man. Very close. Kamara, if you listen to the show previously, we kind of just brushed him off. He's not going to be an elite guy. He's not going to be top 12. He may not be top 24 at this point. We thought Jamal Williams was going to be there and stealing some touchdowns. Everyone thought Kendre Miller was going to be a thing. And then we all thought Kamara was declining. When he came back with an explosion in weeks 4 through 10. He was running back 2. And everyone was comparing him to CMC. Oh, he's on CMC's level. Oh, he has the same numbers as CMC. Oh, no one talks about him, but they talk about CMC. He was averaging 20.5 points per game. Phenomenal, right? I was wrong. We were all wrong. Most of us were wrong on Kamara, considering his draft price and the way he was not being pumped up. Weeks 11 through 16, he's been running back 13, 16.6 points per game. So dropped off a little bit, just 4 points. But that is a massive 4 points because guess what? CMC never dropped off. But we keep the comparisons going, I guess. The Bucs do give up 11.8 points per game to running backs, 4.3 receptions per game. That's Kamara's game. He needs to catch the ball to be productive. Bucs do stuff the run, especially in Tampa Bay. They're playing an inspired Buccaneers defense where they have actually taken to the locker room and they but they've cycled in Devin White. They're being serious about their team. They're not letting Devin White blow plays anymore. He can't keep up with the teams. So they are putting the players in place to actually stop the running back position and the receiver position as well. I do believe that the Buccaneers win this game going out of, just blow the Saints out. I really truly believe that in Raymond James in Tampa Bay, which could game script Kamara out. Whereas Bijan, on the other hand, at Chicago, they need a win. Arthur Smith, let me ask you this. Is Bijan a bust?
No, it's his rookie season and his
fantasy bust. Is he a fantasy football bust?
Is he a fantasy bust this year? I would say so. He was drafted in the first or second round of most fantasy drafts, and you're expecting him to be your first or second best player on your team. He's not producing in that kind of light. I mean, he's running back on the season right now? Not top 10. So, in my opinion, he would be he's RB12 right now.
So on the Beer and Sports podcast with Josh Wingate, he actually had Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan Robinson coming out. And Josh is, maybe I'm wrong, Josh, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong on this, but you did say Bijan was more of an overall. Yep, there goes in the chat. Throw that comment up there. He called this perfectly. He said Bijan would be more of a scattered everywhere, whether it be in the slot, whether it be out in the wide receiver position, running back position. And I did tell you guys from the start, week 1 through 4, like, hey, Algier is going to be heavily involved all season. Do not just put all your eggs in one basket. So we were, in sync with that. But Bijan has not been a bust, in my opinion. He's running back 12 right now. Running back 12 as a rookie. 19th in carries overall. So he's not great in carries because he does have those games where he has 1 or 7 carries randomly. Third in receptions, though. Third in running back targets. So he's heavily involved in the pass game, which that's what you want from your running back. That's Austin Eckler. There's a lot of guys like Kamara, even CMC, like they're up there. Saquon, like you want the targets, and he is. He's top 10 in receiving yards at the running back position, top 10 in rushing yards, top 10 in receptions as a rookie, and people are still on him. I think he's doing fine. It's because he's not getting the 40, 30-point games, the 28-point games. He's not doing all that because they do involve Algier. They involve Jonnu Smith. They involve Kyle Pitts. They involve so much. They're an overall team. Is the overall team working out? No. it's really not working out for him, honestly, because you don't have the right person steering the ship. Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke, they're not going to get the job done. We all know that by now. They're kind of building the opposite way. You're supposed to get the quarterback and get the pieces around them. They're getting the pieces, and I guess they're going to try to find a quarterback to steer the ship. Hey, that's what they do.
That's what Arthur Smith does. They found Derrick Henry on the Titans, and then they tried to find a quarterback for him and find pieces around Derrick Henry. I guess that's what they're doing in Atlanta now.
I will leave it at this because there's not much more I can say about Bijan Robinson. I am starting Bijan this week for Chicago. The Bears allow the second most running back receptions, 6.5 a game. Bijan, like I said, third in targets, top 10 in receptions. I expect a big game from Bijan out of the passing game. But we did tell everyone, well, not me, Josh Wingate over in the Beer and Sports podcast on Monday nights, Finstock Sports Network. He told everyone, be worried. He's not the kind of guy who's going to get 15 to 20 carries a game. He's just not that guy where Jahmyr Gibbs was. And Jahmyr Gibbs has been proving he's the better fantasy running back at this point. He's been electric. I'm still starting Bijan. He's got the potential. He's got the motivation to try to win this game. Bijan for me at Chicago. That's all I got to say. That's all. Unless he's got an illness, or unless Arthur Smith is playing against him in fantasy, or something happens. Who knows? But I would trust Bijan.
Arthur Smith isn't in a championship. What are you talking about?
Not yet.
He doesn't know how to use his best players. He's probably got all his best players on the bench. So
I just told you Bijan's number 3 in targets at running back. He's using his best players. It's just they're not a really good offense.
I will say this is the most touchdowns Kyle Pitts has ever scored in his career in a single season. So
there you go. And someone
like 2.
Shut up. All right. Running backs.
Wide receivers. We already talked about
wide receivers. We have T. Higgins again. We talked about him last week at Kansas City. And we have Pickens, Mr. Dave Slayer himself, Pickens at Seattle, wide receiver 28 on the season. Do you want me to go first this time? Because I've been putting you on the spot. All right. So Pickens had a massive game. I'll just say it. 4 catches, 195, 2 touchdowns last week. It really helped me. It really, really helped me beat Dave. That's why he's not here right now. He's not speaking to me. He crushed it. But other than that, what has he done all season? 6 games out of 15, he's had double digit. Those double digits aren't even special. I'm talking about 11, 10, 12.2. He doesn't really get a ton of volume. He's not a high volume player. Again, last week, 4 catches, 195, 2 touchdowns. What if he doesn't get those? What if he doesn't score the touchdowns? What if he doesn't get busted coverage or whatever, or make those like electric plays? Then he's nothing. He's just like every other week. He's only had 1 game this year with 6 or more catches. One, and you're supposed to be the wide receiver 1 or 1-ish on your team. That's not going to get it done. Again, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, and that clown show, Trubisky, that's part of the problem. I get it. I went back and looked at Seattle's matchups against the wide receivers. Last week, Tennessee, I just wrote ha because they don't have a passing game. Week 15, they played Philadelphia. A.J. Brown had 5 for 56. Devontae Smith had 5 for 50. That team is struggling right now. Week 14 against the Cowboys, CD went for 12 for 116 and a touchdown. Cooks 4 for 45 touchdown. Week 13, Debo 7 for 79, Ayuk 2 for 50. I did that because I want to see if they're giving up big plays. They're not giving up big plays unless your name is CD Lamb. Other than that, and I think that George Pickens is a little bit less of a player than CD. I'm just gonna say a little bit. I don't want the George Pickens mob coming after me. I don't want anyone yelling at me, calling me bad names in the comments, but he's just not CD Lamb. I think we can all agree on that. I think Pickens gets shut down against Seattle. I don't know if Rudolph has the same magic. Higgins has been straight up dominant in every single game. He gets 8 targets, except for week 1. I brought this up last week. He's up to 19.82 points per game when he has 8 targets or more. 8 targets is the key for T. Higgins. Under 8 targets, he gets 7.2 fantasy points per game. Big difference, big split. A lot of that's because of the rib injury. A lot of that's because of that. Like, come on, you hurt your ribs as a real life person. You're on the bed for 4 weeks. This guy was still playing football. It's hard to extend your arms. It's hard to run. It's hard to catch your breath. These ribs are finally getting healed up, and he is the wide receiver 1 now because we don't know is Chase out for the year?
He's still out this week, so
He's still out this week, so
he's out for
therefore
the fantasy year.
Yeah, so that we have to rely on T. Higgins as the wide receiver 1 there. Now, is Browning going to have a shit show game again? No idea, right? But Higgins still got his, even in a shit show game. I will say this, since week 13, he's a wide receiver 11, 15.7 points per game. He's averaging more points per game in that time frame than A.J. Brown and Chris Olave, and a better points per game than Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson's been pretty good since he's been back. Last week against Kansas City, though, well, Kansas City's awesome, by the way. I just want to say they're 4th against the receivers. They only allow 22.8 points per game to wide receivers. Last week, they shut down Devontae Adams and your boy, Jacoby Myers, only allowing 4 catches, 44 yards on 11 targets to the entire Vegas Raiders receiver room. That being said, I'm still starting Higgins against Kansas City.
Not bad. Oh, it's pretty good analysis. Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of words right there. The biggest thing for me here is that KC is tough. Even though the Raiders still beat them, they didn't allow an offensive touchdown. They didn't really allow an offensive production. In fact, they allowed 0 completions in the final 3 quarters of the game, which is insane. But that's the Raiders. This is the Bengals. They're still going up against a technical backup QB. Higgins is the wide receiver 1 for the Bengals. Jamar Chase does look like he is probably going to miss out this week and be back next week in week 18 or a wild card round if they make it to the wild card. I think Jake Browning's found his guy. I mean, T. Higgins has had 8 targets the last 2 games, which is pretty nice. He's got touchdowns in both of those games. He is clearly the number 1 guy here. Looking at my notes, I'm going to have to go Higgins here. Only because KC and Cincinnati, they both play each other really well. KC is not really doing a lot right now, and I think this is going to be a big game for the Bengals to keep their spot in the playoffs alive. And I'm here for the KC meltdown right now. So I'm gonna get with T. Higgins. George Pickens, dude, I cannot stand you right now. When I put you in my roster or in my lineup, you suck. When I take you out of my lineup, you are awful. So to make sure that I am solid with the T. Higgins pick, I'm going to start George Pickens in the league just to make sure he does terrible this week.
Awesome. Answer some questions in the chat we have on Ronald McDonald. Is Jalen Waddle good to go? High ankle sprain. Not looking good. Even if he does play, I don't want to start him this week against Baltimore. I do have him in one of my 5 championship matchups, and I've already put him on the bench, and I've already placed KJ Osborne in his spot, and it's sad. I don't think I'm going to move it, even if Waddle is active. I don't have high hopes for Jalen Waddle this week. It could blow up in my face, and I hope it does because Miami Dolphins, I want them to clinch that number 1. I want them to get the number 1 seed as a fan. I want to see that happen, but I just don't expect Waddle to be out there. And if he is, he's not going to be he's not going to be a full go. So I'm not playing Waddle this week. That's all I got to say. That's sad. It makes me want to cry. We have tight ends. Yeah. We have Travis Kelce. It wasn't supposed to be Kelce, but Justin made an executive decision and changed it, which is okay.
You only give me 2 options for tight ends.
Because
so I'm tired of your options.
If I put Kelce in the chat, Dave's going to say, who's benching Kelce? Who's benching Kelce? Hey, who's benching Kelce? That's what Dave
He hasn't been playing Kelce. Playing. He hasn't had Kelce on his roster this year. Then
the tight end 2. I mean, I'll play the tight end 2 all week. I'm never benching the tight end 2. Sorry. He is a tight end 2, isn't he?
You have to make an executive decision sometimes, and he is tight end 2. I mean, barely, but he's
gonna finish, and he's gonna finish tight end 1, and yet you want to.
But here's the thing: he's tight end 2 because of week 5, 6, and 7 when he scored more than 20 points a game. 35 in week 7, but
we're just
since
taking
week
fantasy
7,
points away?
he's been meh.
We're just taking fantasy points away.
Oh, are we going to base our championship matchups based off of week 7?
I'm going to
base 17. This was 2.5 months ago when he did that. He hasn't been the same since then.
I'm going to base it off of my notes, which I will gladly read to you whenever you're ready, sir. But I'm going to let you go first since you're so you're so adamant about the Kelsey hate club. You're so adamant about it. Listen, nobody should hate Travis Kelsey more than me. I cannot stand Taylor Swift. I cannot stand her music. I cannot stand her face. I cannot stand her stupid eyes. I cannot stand her stupid eyelashes. I cannot stand her stupid everything about her. But yet I'm over here supporting my dude, Travis Kelsey. So you go forward with your David Njoku love.
For what it's worth, I have Travis Kelsey in a league that I'm playing a championship matchup in right now. So I say this with a heavy heart. So let's just look at this matchup here. Again, two guys that are pretty similar in stats, but the points favor Travis Kelsey. Njoku has been having some pretty solid weeks, though, scoring 27, 26, and 16, which is better than the 14, 7, and 9 from Travis Kelsey. If we're looking at the last 4 weeks here, Njoku's doing better. 4 weeks ago he had 3.7, but that's neither here nor here. He's been killing it. His production has gone drastically up with Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco likes David Njoku. I don't know what to say other than that's his favorite target on that Cleveland Browns team. Because Flacco favors Njoku, and even though Kelsey is the only receiving option, I'm going to say the only receiving option on the Chiefs. Yeah, they have Rashee Rice, but he's not been great. They have no other wide receiver. Tell me which wide receivers outside of Rice and Kelsey they have?
That's all I've needed is Tyreek and Kelsey, and I'm not saying that he is Tyreek Hill, but Rashee Rice has been very good. I don't know where you're coming off of this Rashee Rice.
Okay, Rashee Rice is the number one target in Kansas City right now. Travis Kelsey's been dropping balls. He's not been great. Patrick Mahomes hasn't been great either. They're not getting what they should be getting out of this tandem. He hasn't scored more than 10 points since week 14. And again, I'm going with a current matchup. And they got the Bengals this week. The Bengals play pretty tough defense. They've got a pretty solid defense. Maybe not to the tight end, which now I'm reading my notes. They give up the second most points, 12.4 to the tight end position, which again isn't that much. The Jets only give up 10 points, but David Njoku scores way more than 10 points a game, whereas Kelsey, he averages 12 points. I don't want to say Kelsey. That's a thing, and I gotta go look at this league now because I don't want to. I really do not want to sit Kelsey. But if I have Njoku sitting on the bench right now, I'm heavily considering starting David Njoku. I know you're not going to agree with me here, but I am going to lean towards David Njoku this week, and I'll be right come Monday.
Come Monday, it'll be all right, man. Njoku, last 3 weeks, I think you already went through this. Tight end 2-2-4. He's got 8 top 10 finishes since week 7. Doesn't Njoku? Kelsey only has 5. I understand that. Cleveland targets the tight end 5th most in the NFL. 27.3% of their targets go to the tight end. Kelsey is not on that level with the target share from Mahomes. I just want to say that. I can't hate you if you start Njoku versus the New York Jets, but the New York Jets defense has been pretty good, been pretty fire lately. Obviously all season long. If they had a competent quarterback, the New York Jets, and I'm sorry, Miami Dolphins fan, the New York Jets would be winning this division. I just truly believe that with their defense, with what they can do with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, I do believe if they had, like I said, if they would have had a Joe Flacco or someone competent, a Baker Mayfield, someone, then I would say yes. The New York Jets are that good, especially defensive wise. But the fact is, I'm looking at Travis Kelsey. I spent that first round capital. I know we put the draft and we throw it away, right? I understand that. And by the way, I don't understand your hate for Rashee Rice lately. He's been dominant in the past since week 12, wide receiver 3, 22, 12, and 7. I don't understand why you're hating on my boy Rashee Rice. I just had to bring that up. I couldn't find him on this thing because I didn't know how to spell his first name. But I will say this, Travis Kelsey will finish the tight end 1 again because Hawkinson's unfortunate injury. Even with Hawkinson as a tight end 1 right now currently, Travis Kelsey's number 1 points per game, 15.3 points per game. Hawkinson's only 14.6. That's almost a full point difference. Kelsey missed that first week, and yes, he had a very, very, very big week. I understand that. I rostered Travis Kelsey. He was my 101 in Scott Fishbowl. I didn't make the playoffs. I did make the playoffs. I didn't make it through round 1 because of Josh Dobbs. That's neither here nor there. Travis Kelsey's third in the league at targets at the tight end position. Since week 10, this is what scares me. Since week 10, Ferguson, TJ Hawkinson, Trey McBride, Evan Ingram, and David Njoku all have more targets than your boy Travis Kelsey. Njoku has 25 more targets in that time frame than Travis Kelsey. That scares me. That scares me in this debate. That scares me in this conversation. I understand where you're coming from. He only has 3 20-point plus games in 2023, Travis Kelsey. I went back and did all of his 20-point games from his rookie season to 2023. I will not read those out loud, but I will say when he started being awesome in 2017, he had 5. I'm going to read them off anyway. 2018, he had 6. 2019, he had 5. 2020, he had 10 20-point games. 2021 was a down season. He only had 3. Last year, he had 7. So our expectations for 20-point games from Travis Kelsey were like an all-time high, right? And I mean, I say 20-point games because if you get 20 points from your tight end, you're most likely winning that matchup. And no one's put up more 20-point games than Travis Kelsey in that time frame. This year, he just hasn't been getting it done because that team's out of sync. But I'm not benching Travis Kelsey under any circumstances. I don't care how good Njoku's been. I don't care that Njoku went to my favorite college, University of Miami. I don't care that I'll be rooting for Njoku against the Jets because I hate the Jets. I don't care that Kelsey might have the ugliest girlfriend in the world. I don't care. Starting Travis Kelsey, and that's just period, point blank. I'm starting my studs. I'm not going to regret. And I will say this. 1 year, I've only done this once. In my championship game, I got cute, and I started Robbie Anderson because he was hot. Remember the year Robbie Anderson went nuts, and he was white hot, and it was the first year, our first time we've ever heard of Robbie Anderson. He was red hot that season. I started him in my championship game against my studs. Robbie Anderson got me a 0. I could have started anyone else. I would have won that matchup. I lost the championship game because I rode the hot hand over my proven studs. That's a true fact. You can ask my friends. You can call me up. That happened, and it still haunts me to this day. I tell Dirtbag Dave about it all the time. It's the worst case scenario. You never want to lose a championship game because you think you're too cute and you think that you know everything, and you're going to start this red hot guy who hasn't done shit his entire career but decides he wants to be red hot at the end of the season. I'm not doing it. I'm starting Travis Kelsey.
Njoku's not that guy though. He's not the.
He hasn't been he hasn't been solid. He hasn't been like a superstar his entire life like Travis Kelsey has. Period.
I forgot fantasy championships mean like what did you do for your entire career? Not what did you do this season?
I don't want to play a guy who's red hot at the end of the season who might lay an egg. Who might lay an egg? Robbie Anderson laid a freaking. What year was that, by the way?
Who's been tight end 1 since week 8 this year? David Njoku has been tight end 1 since week 8 this season. Whereas Travis Kelsey has been tight end number 9 since week 8.
His name is Chosen Anderson now. He's still on the Dolphins, by the way. Hey guys, is he still on the Dolphins? He is.
Yes.
If we have a question, we have a question in the chat to break up this little debate real quick, and then we'll get to it. Full PPR, start Brees, or wait for Pittman with an option of Chandler. I'll let you answer that because you're the Pittman guy. You're the Colts guy.
I assume Pittman is playing this week. It's going to be very pivotal that Pittman plays this week after last week and what the Raiders were able to do with the Chiefs with 0 wide receivers. He is listed as questionable. He remains in protocol as of this morning, so that's not great. He had symptoms come back up on Saturday or Sunday, which is why he was left out. I'm going to go Brees. I told somebody to start Brees last week, and Brees killed it. He did not start Brees, and he lost his fantasy matchup because of that. So yeah, I'm going to go Brees Hall here.
I'm going to go Brees as well, just because we saw what he could do last week, but that was a crazy game last week. I usually always start receivers over running backs, but I don't want to wait for Pittman. I want to make sure I get my studs in there. Chandler is a good option, but he's not over Brees. And if Pittman does sit and then you're stuck with Chandler and you could have had Brees, you're going to be kicking yourself, man. Like, I just know it. So I'm starting Brees and just riding with my studs. I know this is the theme of the show today. We're riding with my studs. Riding with my studs. All right, 2016. By the way, I'm still looking up because I could not find his name. Chosen Robbie Anderson. Week 16.
Either way, David Njoku's been tight end 1 since week 8. So if you really want to talk about, like, it's not a flash in the pan at the end of the season. He's been the best tight end since Travis Kelce's big 37-point game against the Chargers.
Jeez, Anderson wasn't even that hot when I started him, but he did score 0 against New England in week 16 championship week. I'll never forget it. Three targets. I'll never forget that. But he was coming off of 3 great games of 16.1, 17.1, 18.0. And I'm like, I got to start this guy. I got to start him. Started him, and it got me a big fat 0. And Njoku's not the same kind of player. I get what you're saying. I really do. But Njoku can literally go back to what he always was an 8-point player at best. But Joe Flacco and him are linking up, and they're like BFF, so why not? I'm rooting for David Njoku. I love David Njoku. I just don't know if I can start him.
I really hope Kelce outplays Njoku. In my fantasy championship, I have Kelce. My opponent has Njoku. So Njoku killing me is going to be the death of me. But I just think he's going to do better than Kelce this week. And we're going to see that come Monday when I lost my championship because of it.
Either way, I don't have either in any championship games because if I had Kelce, he crushed me. He killed me. And if I don't have Njoku. Hey, don't laugh. Don't laugh. I took him in the first round expecting a game changer, and he was just tight end 1. And which, if you're just tight end 1, it is what it is. Guys, we're gonna get on out of here for the week. We're not gonna be here Friday. Friday is my birthday. Wish me happy birthday in the comments. Don't leave anything mean. I am turning 38. If you wanted to know, I'm pretty old. My bones hurt. My back hurts. I've been seeing a chiropractor all year. So I'm at that stage of my life. Make sure you follow us on X at OUSFF Pod. Make sure you follow the network, our very wonderful network, Fins Talk Sports Network. You can catch Dolphin shows, wrestling shows, everything on this network. We got it all. Mostly Miami Dolphins content. Again, we will not be here Friday. We will not be here Tuesday because waivers are over. Championships will be had. Next Wednesday, we will be doing our OUS Fantasy Football Award Show. We'll be doing top busts, top MVPs. Guys, I'm running out of time. They're telling me to get out of here. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen to podcasts. Follow on X and Instagram at OUSFFPOD. We'll be back next week for more ways to win your league.